share a little bit today about some of the programs that we offer, who my staff are in the region, in each of the communities, and who to go to if you have questions or not sure who to go to. My staff are always there, but just to talk a little bit about those programs, and then hopefully if there are questions, I'd like to open it up and hopefully I can answer them. If not, we'll take that message away and come back with some answers for the panel. So my name is Crystal Craig. I am the Regional Manager for Child and Family Services. I live in Yellowknife, which I know isn't ideal, but I do spend half my time in the Sawtoo, and I rotate amongst all the communities. So in my current role, I'm just not manager, but I'm the foster care and adoption worker. I was the Delaney social worker for about 6 months. So I kind of make sure that I go wherever whatever communities need my support the most. But I do spend half my time in the Sawtoo. Very fortunate over the last 6 months, I've been able to build our team up for Child and Family Services. So in addition to myself, I have a full-time social worker now living and residing in Delaney. His name is, I know, right? I'm very excited for that too. His name is Leonard, and he joined us at the middle of January. Housing was a big factor in trying to get him there, but we were able to work that out. And might be a little bit biased, but I'd like to say that he's fitting in really well into the community and really engaging with the culture and the language and with the programs that are being offered. In Fork at Hope, I have Kofi. That was another community where we didn't have a worker for probably about 6 months, and I was providing remote support. But Kofi has been in Fork at Hope since last June, and he worked a lot with Nora on that cultural connection, and I believe he's also made a really big connection to the culture and to the community. And he's really busy. Families are coming to him for support. I just signed off a number of voluntary plans even today, so families are wanting support and they are going to him for that support. So I just wanted to share that with people. In covering Toledo and Colville Lake, I have Susan Harrington. So Susan, people may know her from the counseling world. She was there for about 3 years, and I believe she has a home in Toledo. But she's been supporting us in Toledo and Colville Lake. And Colville Lake, as you know, we don't have a lot of services and supports in that community, but Susan has been going regularly, and families are engaging, and they know we're coming now, right? So they're wanting that support. They're seeing how we can support the community, how we can support extended families. So the more we go there over the last 3 or 4 months, the more engaged families are becoming with us. In Norman Wells, I have Perfect and Love You. Perfect has been in the Sawtoo for about 4.5 years now, so she supports our Norman Wells families, and then I help support her. Sometimes it's hard to be an only worker in a community, so I do support her as well. And then in the foster care and adoption role, I do have Dolly, who just came back, but I'm actively covering that portfolio. So if there's any questions on that program specifically, that's me. But in general, I do support all the staff, and I make it a point to know what families we're supporting and getting to the communities as often as I can. Toledo, I haven't been to in the last little bit, so I'm hoping to go there this month to spend some time there with the social worker, but that's kind of my staff. So I am excited to say that when I came on 1.5 years ago, I had 1 worker in the Sawtoo plus myself, and we're slowly building up. So all of our social workers are situated either in the wellness centers or in the health centers, so community members know how to find us. So whether it's like in Norman Wells, Fork at Hope, Colville Lake, those supports are through the health centers. Toledo, it's through the wellness building, and the same in Delaney, right? So where you find your counselors is where you're going to find the social workers. Now my program does just deal with child and family services, so either you're like a mom expecting, or you're a mom or dad with children, or even a dad expecting, partner with a baby with their spouse. We do work with families, but that doesn't mean that if you're an elder and you need to see somebody because you need help with a document, or somebody's passed away and you need help with the indigency forms, my social workers are always going to meet with people and support you. We might help with whatever that immediate need is, but then we're going to connect you with the adult social worker. There's 1 adult social worker that's not through my program, but they will be located in Norman Wells. But right now, the manager, Brian, is supporting the SAW, but I know because he's not here, and I know because he doesn't know people, or there's not one in each community, my staff will always kind of meet with people, assess what they're needing, and then help navigate to where they need to go. So if you never know where to go, just go see one of my social workers and we'll help. And if, like I said, if it's just filling out some applications, or maybe it's figuring out a pension statement, or it's applying for a healthcare card, or if it's connecting with Tina's program for counseling, sometimes people get confused on where to go. Ask them to come and see the social worker, and we'll help navigate them where they need to go. So I don't shut the doors if you don't have children. Over the last 5 years, there's been a huge shift in how Child and Family Service has been run. I know historically, there hasn't always been a great relationship, or there's been some negative myths about, Child and Family Services. They remove children from homes. And I'm not going to lie, old school social workers did go through cupboards, they did do those things, but that's not what our program is. And I think for people who've worked with us over the last number of years, you've been able to see that shift as well. We provide just as many supports to families in the home than we do to families out of the home. In the SAW2, I have very few children who aren't with their parents, and those children who aren't with their parents are with extended family. So we work really hard at what do we have to do to keep this family together. Poverty should never be a reason for a child to be removed from their home. If there's a need for food, or a need for baby supplies, or a need for winter clothing, I'm going to assess that immediate need, and then maybe a one-time support, but then I'm going to help you make those applications to income support. I'm going to help you make those letters to housing to see how we can get on a payment plan. I'm going to help with those Jordan's Principal support letters. So we do provide a lot of at-home support. And when children can't be with their parents, we work really hard at supporting children to be then with grandparents, or with aunties, or with uncles. So years ago, people may have thought, oh, I've had a criminal record, or I've had a history with Child and Family Services. That's not going to stop you from taking care of your niece, or your grandson, or your nephew. That just means that we're going to have a conversation, we're going to see what's changed, and I'm going to see what I have to do to support you in caring for your child, your grandchild, your niece, your nephew, your cousin. So we're going to do what we have to help support children to stay with families if they can't be home with their parents. So there's been a big shift in that practice, and we're even taking that step further with the new federal act. We call it the new federal act. It's been around forever, but we call it the new federal act. Is that importance, right, to do whatever, again, we have to do to keep Indigenous children within their communities and with their families. And we've even moved away from the, grandma needs to get a criminal record check, grandma needs to get a medical, and which I think is crazy, I know, but we're able to do more voluntary supports. It's called like caregiver VSAs, and I have some in the SAW2 that I've done where I am supporting you as grandma. Like maybe your kids have just taken off from the community and you're like, I need help, Crystal. Like I need to buy diapers, I need to buy formula. I don't know when they're coming back. I don't need to open an investment because you've taken those steps to keep that child safe, but now you're coming to me and saying, but I need help, right? Like a can of formula is $80, a box of diapers is $100, or I can't get them in Colville Lake and I need someone to ship them to me from Yellowknife. So there's different supports now that we can provide that isn't that same, like, for lack of better words, intrusive process that families felt before, right? We're trying to be more culturally appropriate. We're trying to be more community and family based. And I'm also really proud to say that out of my 15 foster homes across the SAW2, they are grandparents, they are aunties, they are uncles. Some of them are even older siblings that have stepped up that we support. So we have 3 non-Indigenous homes, and they happen to be in Norman Wells, because Norman Wells is a different community, I find, than in the smaller communities. But our caregivers are family, and that's who I'm always going to reach out to if children can't be home. But that's always our last resort, right? Our first resort is what can I do to help this family be successful in their home. Sometimes there's questions around counseling pieces, like where do people go? And I know Tina will talk a little bit more about that, but in the presentation that I did last week is trying to keep it a little bit more simplified for people. Sometimes, people do want treatment, or they do want counseling, or they do want to look at family programs that are available. We tried to simplify it that if you're an adult with no children and you want to go to treatment, then you go to Tina's team. and she'll help you. If you're a family, or you're a mom, or you're a dad, or you're a grandparent who's caring for your children and you want counseling, or you want treatment, or you want family treatment, then come to our program. And whether it's me that does that, I don't do that application, say for Aventa, but Tina's team and I can work together. But because there's children and there's a family involved, then I can support you and navigate you through those processes. So trying to help people realize where to go. But again, if you go to T-Chan and Delaney, she's not going to turn you away. She's going to introduce you to Leonard, right? Or Kofi and Fork and Hope is going to walk you across the hall to Patrick. So our teams do work well together, but sometimes people have those questions on where they should go for help. In addition to like the child protection or the child and family services and that supports, it's not my program, but I briefly mentioned like the adult services. So they do support adults with special needs outside of the territory. So I believe Brian shared that there was about 10 or 12 adults with developmental disabilities who do reside in Southern treatment programs. So his team supports those adults over the age of 19 if they were previously involved with child and family services. And they get them safe, living arrangements, supported wraparound services, and they do have a commitment to maintain that connection with their family and their community. So I think he says they offer like one trip a year to their communities and to their families. They also help with death benefits. Like if you have somebody who passed away and they can't afford a funeral, you can apply to his program to help cover those costs associated with the funeral. If they're children, then those requests would come to myself. And they would support in different ways. If they had an adult service worker in Norman Wells when they hire, they would be able to go to them as elders or seniors to help access the programs that are available to them. But because they're not in every community, we kind of help field those calls. And then we have the prevention side of our program. So Larissa Doyle is the manager of that program, but they closely work with us. So you may have heard of them. They're like your family preservation workers and your healthy families workers. And they do different things in your communities, like nutritional bingo, or they do parenting, or they work, in some communities they have really great working relationships where they work with the band, like the DDG. We're trying to get them working with the wellness committee a little bit more to offer those programs to families. So they're more in-home and they're voluntary. So they can go in and they can help with routines. They can go in and help with budgeting. They can go in and help with advocacy. They can go in and help with just connections to a whole bunch of different programs. They can help with child development, right? We have a lot of young moms in the Sawtoo, and sometimes they just need that guidance, or they need that support, or they need that connection to each other, right? Because when you have kids, sometimes your social network changes, and it's so important to bring the young moms together. So the Healthy Families program is for 6 and under, and sometimes they provide the food hampers and that as well when they have funding. And then family preservation can be right up until the age of being an adult, 19, because they're families who are working with child and family services, and we're just tapping in that in-home support. One of the changes I forgot to mention about my program, and I'm just kind of jumping around here, but so we do offer supports right from mom is pregnant up until a child's 19th birthday. So newborn to age 18, we can provide supports. That can either be while we're working with the families, or that can be while we're working with youth individually. Some youth maybe don't have families that they can go to, or some youth, it's not safe for them to be home. They can enter into agreement with us after their 16th birthday. So from 16, 17, 18, until their 19th birthday when they qualify for income support or get on the housing list and all those things, we can provide that support. And that might be with like a room and board situation. That might be with, again, having them stay with auntie, but we're providing like foster care rates and food money so that way they can have somewhere safe to stay. That's really helping them transition to adulthood, whatever that's needed. Maybe it's helping with SFA applications and getting funding, right, to go to school or post-secondary. We can help them in those areas. We're guiding them into adulthood. If they were in the permanent care of the director, so meaning they came into care and the director is now their permanent guardian, we can extend those supports until their 23rd birthday. So we do have a couple of youth in the Sawtoo who were in permanent care, who are now 19, 20, 21 years old, 22 years old, and we are still supporting them as a legal guardian. We were taking on what a parent would do, right? Like parents wouldn't close your door at age 19, and our act used to do that, but now we can extend that to their 23rd birthday, and there's talk of transition on extending that age a little bit more too. So youth can, at that age, they're young adults, that might mean helping them with a damage deposit, maybe that's helping with advocacy to get in housing, maybe that's, hey Crystal, you know, they got on the housing list, but they need furniture, right? And then maybe we're helping with that. Or in some cases, I'm really excited to say that some of our ESSAs, we call them, so our Extended Support Services youth, are attending post-secondary school right now, and we're helping them. We're SFA, and maybe the bands don't have the funds. We're helping them with living allowances, or we're helping them pay their dorm fees, or whatever we have to do to help them go to university or college or advance their education, just the same way a parent would, right, if they were able to in that position. So we do extend our supports if children have been in our care. In the permanent custody of the director until their 23rd birthday. So there are lots of programs that we offer. Of course, there is the protection piece, but like I said, you know, that's part of the work that we need to do. Like, our program is there to keep families together, but also to protect children. But there's so many voluntary supports that we do provide that I wanted to take that opportunity today to share those with you in the event that maybe you weren't aware, or you know, to plant those seeds to ask more questions, or even to have me come and talk, you know, in a different form individually for each community with the social worker to maybe brainstorm ways that we can help or that we can be involved. If you do have camps, like I know DDG has their men's camp on the go right now, and they're going to be having their family camp in the next couple of weeks. They've asked if our social worker can engage and participate in those. Reach out to me. We want to be involved in your programming, right? We want to be part of the community, not just there dictating that this is what we can offer. So if you do have programs on the go and you want our involvement, please just reach out to me, and I can make sure that who's ever taking notes has my contact information today and share that with people as well. So that's a little bit about my program. I know it was a lot of information. I do have a presentation that I did share with the Wellness Council last week that I can flip to somebody if they wanted to email that out. Just let me know. And again, I'm more than happy to sit one-on-one and answer any questions, or talk to you about what services maybe some of the families in your community need, where there might be some gaps. And then I can work with these lovely ladies. If it's not just on me, we are a team. We just work within different ages and programs and clientele. So I talked a lot, I think, but hopefully I didn't talk too fast. But if you have questions, maybe we can leave them until after Tina and Colleen have provided a little bit of information, and then, because maybe they'll be answered, and then we can answer them together if you guys have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Crystal. I think that you've already mentioned a lot. You've given an overview of our program as well. And thank you so much for inviting us over. It's really a pleasure to be a part of community gatherings like this. So my name is Tina Abiliera. I am the Regional Manager for Mental Health and Addictions. I've been in the SATU for 4 years now. Prior to being here, I was actually a clinical, I'm doing clinical counseling in Saskatchewan. So I've been in North Battleford, that's where I did most of my practice. I've also been in Saskatoon. So I've been trained more on trauma. So being up in here, I felt that my practice has grown being in the communities that we've served. My first 2 years, I've actually been in Delaney. I was the child and youth in there. Fell in love with Delaney. They're the most friendly people that I've actually met, because that was my first community. And then from Delaney, I actually came here to Norman Wells. And in Norman Wells, it's a little bit different. They're also friendly. I have to say all of our communities are friendly. But it's just, it has a different feel. Delaney is more cultural. Norman Wells is more kind of like, there's that business sense to it, more formal. Love Tulita as well. I've been going to Tulita. I've been serving it for 3 years since our mental health and addictions worker left. So I've been going in there. What I've noticed with Tulita is that they really, really like sitting down and having coffee. So much, yeah. That's when I actually learned the power of storytelling. I heard a lot of the stories in there that it actually touched my heart. We have to learn more of those stories, and every time I go in there, I make sure that I actually write it down, because it's actually good for us to share those, especially when we are also counseling children and youth. For Fourth Good Hope, love Fourth Good Hope. They have this very on the land. I've been invited twice to go and participate in a few of their programs. Love it in there. For now, we have Cassie, and she's been there for 2 years. She's our mental health counselor in there. And they've been doing really a lot of good work when it comes to programmings. That's what I've seen with Fourth Good Hope. Cova Lake, I've only been there once, and I actually plan on going more. So for our staff, we have, like what I said in Fourth Good Hope, we have Cassie Khalil. She's been there for 2 years. In Fourth Good Hope, we also have Patrick, who is our community mental health nurse. That's with Colleen's program. In Delaney, we have Tichan Tran. She's been there for almost 2 years now as well. For Tulita, it's been covered by our wellness worker in here, Maddie. So Maddie is going to Tulita now. I'm also covering Tulita once in a while. As for Norman Wells, as of now, we have Maddie as well. So when we talk about mental health, I'm talking about adult mental health, what we're seeing right now is a spike of addictions. And I know that the Grand Chief talked about the addiction piece a while ago. And I agree that when it comes to addictions, we have to focus more on our youth, because sometimes it's actually the youth that do not talk about addictions with us. Usually what happens is that they would just talk about their addictions to their friends. So when we talk about statistics, I cannot really give you statistics of youth that have addictions, because most of our youth that's suffering with addictions, they go to Crystal's program. So when it comes to youth addiction treatment, we would refer it to Crystal's program. And when it comes to adult side, like what I've said a while ago, we've seen a spike of addictions, and of course alcohol would still be the first one in there. 90% of the clients that we actually see would often disclose addiction with alcohol. Other than alcohol, we're also seeing a spike of crack cocaine. And the biggest for crack cocaine, unfortunately, is Norman Wells. So we're seeing 90% of that now in here. And what's actually interesting is that when they talk about their addictions, they're only talking about crack cocaine, not alcohol. So we're not talking about polysubstance. We're just talking about just one, which is very, for me, it's still, I'm worried. I'm worried about what it's actually doing to our community members, because when we talk about crack cocaine, sometimes they feel that, most of the clients that we see, they feel that it's not an addiction. They feel that it's actually something that they use to manage something. So it's really hard for us to get them in. And that's one of the challenges that we've seen. For clients that actually has addiction with alcohol, it's easier for them to come seek help. There's not a lot of stigma when it comes to alcohol. And I think it's because most of us drink, right? So they would just kind of like come to us and say, I just would want to stop my drinking, easier. But when it comes to crack, cocaine, when it comes to other substances, they don't talk about that. I haven't heard anything though, or anyone in here that actually has benzos addiction, not yet, so thank God. So as of now, we're only looking at two substances, not to mention cannabis, because sometimes they're also mixing cannabis and putting cannabis into play, but not a lot of them would actually talk about that. We also have child and youth counselor. As of now, we only have one, and Delisha Shaw, she is our regional child and youth counselor. I know that there was already a news about the shift of the CYC, and I've had a lot of parents contacted me saying, "Hey Tina, are you still servicing schools because of the changes in the CYC program?" We are still going to service schools, but then there would also be some support that our children and youth will be getting in schools. So the schools will also be hiring their own community or their own counselors. I don't know how they'll be calling it. I think it's school community wellness counselor. And so for that, there would be prevention, promotion would be happening in school, and the level 3s, which is the clinical counseling, assessment, and diagnosis. Those are the kids that will be referred to us. So that is the biggest shift with the child and youth program. But even though with that shift, of course, we are under the community counseling program. Any children and youth, whether they're going to school or not, they can still access services to us. So you can go to the wellness centers, just like what Crystal said. In Delaney, we have it at the wellness center. In Norman Wells, we have it here at the health center. Fort Good Hope is health center as well, and Tulita is wellness center. So we are still servicing children and youth. It's just that we are not going to be in school 24/7 like before. In the communities, we will be in there once a month for now until we figure out how the schedules would work with the schools. And also in my portfolio, we also have the domestic violence. So anyone that's actually experiencing domestic violence, they can call Crystal, they can also call me, or they can call the RCMP or call in any one of us. Once they've called them, then my program actually helps with the removal. So our program is the one that will be actually paying for their flights out. We will also be helping case manage them to go to the shelters or to go to any safe place in other communities. So that's the short version of our program. I'll give the mic to Colleen.
Thanks. Hi, good morning. Can you hear me okay? I just want to mention, so we report to Mimi, and Mimi is on leave right now, so I'm covering for her. So just so you guys are aware, I see lots of familiar faces. So everything outside of their programs kind of then is under my program, which is community health centers. So I came to the SAW 12 years ago, Fort Good Hope. I worked as a community health nurse, fell in love with the SAW. I had previously been working on the East Coast as an emerge nurse. Had a nurse that I worked with in Nunavut who said, "You have to come to the Northwest Territories, the SAW." And I said, "I'm coming." So came and fell in love with the people, the communities. I've spent time in every community, and I'm sure I've talked to most of you at some point on the phone when things have been going on. So for community health centers, we are obviously, we operate, and I'm just gonna kind of give you like an overview of how we function. So Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 5, and then on call after hours. So there's a nurse on call. We aren't responders outside of the facility, so sometimes we can run into some situations because it's about getting the clients to us so that we can care for them in the health centers. So we look after our program work, which is chronic disease, well child, prenatal, well adult, any public health programs, we take care of those as well. So of course, like everywhere in Canada, I'm competing, trying to get nurses to come work with us. You'll notice when you get emergency services notices, unfortunately, the last thing I want to see happen is a health center close, because obviously that would have a big effect on the community. So I'm always trying to recruit and have nurses come work with us. However, it takes a special person to come work here. I can't take people just right out of school. People need to have some really good, solid nursing experience before we can even entertain, orientating them to this role, because it's quite a large scope. So of course we fall under NTHSSA, because about 10 years ago we were our own health authority, and now we fall under NTHSSA, which Kim Riles is the CEO, and so that obviously is who Mimi reports to. So for the health center programs themselves, we try to keep up as best as we can with the staff that we have, and of course our prenatals, our well child, our babies getting immunizations. Those are very, very important to make sure that everybody's getting the best care possible. So we look after that, and as well emergency services. So after hours, if somebody's having an emergency, we're the folks that you give a call to. I don't know if there's anything else specifically that people would like to know about health centers in general, or the program work that we're doing, but maybe we'll open it up to the floor.
Okay, my name is Angela, and I also sit on the Sub-2 Wellness Council. And I think I would like to find out about the process of going for treatment. It seems like for someone, they want to go right away. There's always delay. I just talked to a mother yesterday, and she was talking to me with tears in her eyes. She said, I know I need help. I'm an addict. I have children. I want to go. But I keep going to the mental health worker. I keep going. And I said, we're working on it. We're working on it. It just seems like once they want to go, it should, the help should be there to go, not for them to wait. And then they kind of give up after that. Nobody's listening to me. I just give up. I'm not going to go anymore. I'm not going to talk more. I've given my papers. I've signed this. I've done this. I need to go, but the process is just too long. Can you explain the process, please?
Thank you so much, Angela. And I think that question is a question that's actually been asked more often to us. So when someone is actually applying for treatment, we need 2 IDs for that. One is their valid health card, just because in the treatment, of course, the health card is actually going to pay for the treatment. If they don't have their health card, we would assist our clients into applying for one. So health card, it needs to be valid. And then they also have to have a piece of ID to travel. And sometimes they're coming in with us with no IDs, and we would always tell them, please make sure to apply for it. So sometimes the weight is not about the process, but it's on the IDs. And I've seen a lot of our clients that would actually say, oh, I applied to get my provincial ID or my driver's license, but it's not going to be here until 3 weeks or 4. Unfortunately, when it comes to traveling out of the territory, you do have to have a piece of that ID, and there's nothing else that we can do. So that's one of those things that we checked first. Second, we do what we call as the readiness assessment. And in that readiness assessment, we actually ask our clients, especially those that would have kids, what are their plans for their children? Is there someone that's going to be taking care of them? And sometimes they would tell us, we don't have it right now. Let us go find one that would take care of them when we go out. And the reason why we're asking for that is that sometimes when they go out for treatment, they actually self-discharge because there is no one to take care of their kids. And once they self-discharge, what we see is that our clients actually go into depression and shame because they did not finish the treatment. And so we check, again, there's a few questions that we would ask them. First would be the ID. Second, if you have children, who's gonna take care of them. Third, And sometimes this is coming from our clients, is that financial support. I am working, what is going to happen for who's gonna pay my rent if I go in there? A venta is 2 months, so it's not short. So when they go into treatment, the shortest treatment that we have is at Renaissance. This is in Toronto, it's 37 days, but it can also go as high as 12 weeks. So sometimes our clients, when they come to us, they tell us, Tina, how am I going to pay for my rent? Who's going to give groceries if in a way I'm going to go into treatment? So for us, we would work with them to case manage all of those questions that they have before they leave, because it's truly difficult for our clients to leave knowing no one's going to take care of their kids, or that the rent is not going to get paid. No one's going to take care of their elderly parents as well. We're not only talking about children, also their elderly parents. So those are the things in the readiness that actually makes it difficult for our clients to move forward. Sometimes too, they would come to us and say, okay, we signed all of the documents, we signed all of this, but at the end of the day, they also have to wait for the availability of beds. So in our treatment facilities, we have wait times. Some of them would be 2 weeks, some would be 3 weeks, depends on where they're going. And at least right now, what I can say is that we are expediting most of our applications, because we do understand that there is a need for our clients to go as fast. Now, once they get the acceptance letter, so even if we say that that's 3 weeks, they get the acceptance letter, they come back to us, and we would send that acceptance letter to Yellowknife for their travel to be booked. And as we all know, medical travel, right? Booking travel out, sometimes it takes 7 days. So 7 days is the minimum time that they give us so they can book their flights. Sometimes too, it's not possible with how our flights are, especially now, it's difficult. We actually had a client that was supposed to go to treatment on the 19th, but because there's no flights, there are a lot of flight restrictions here in the SATU, we can't fly them before the 19th. So we have to fly them on the 22nd. So there is a lot of outside factors that actually happens before our clients would go out for treatment. So I would say that with the process, our shortest wait time that I've seen, they have, and this is for a client that would have their ID, their valid ID, health card. They phoned right away the treatment facilities, because sometimes they don't want to do the intake, and we cannot do that with them. So once they come in to us, we give them the intake number for Aventa, for Renaissance, for all of our treatment facilities. All they needed to do is call. Sometimes they don't want to do that, which is fine. We would invite them into our office to do that. But sometimes they're just not ready to do it. So in a perfect world where they have their ID, they have their health card, and they did phone the treatment facilities on time, they submit all the documents, and then we get Yellowknife to book their flights, I would say it would be at least 3 weeks that we've seen. That would be the minimum time that we've actually sent our clients out. So I hope that that actually answers the question. Thank you.
Good morning, Chief Colin Pure here. I know a few years ago, medical travel was here in the Satu region. We had it here, there was no problems for people to travel in and out of the Satu region. I want to know why you guys gave up this. I understand that when you phone map travel, you're either getting, medical travel, you're either getting a Yellowknife or a Nuvik. in January, I came here with my wife. My wife was going out for medical. There was a ticket booked for her and myself to leave, to get to here, camp, and then to get on North Right to Yellowknife. Only to find out the next morning my wife was able to get on a flight, and I was told that I wasn't able to get on a flight. I was my wife's, escort. Medical travel booked me on a flight knowing that the flight was full and told me that I was on a waiting list. So my wife got on a plane and left me at the airport. No ride around to any place, no place to stay. And I was glad it happened to me because I sit as a chief in my community and I want to know how much of my community members this happened to. Not only in Fort Good Hope, but in the Satu region. How much elders were left at the airport there. No place to eat, no place to go 5 o'clock in the evening to eat because all the restaurants are closed here. No rides to bring them anywhere. I phoned medical travel and told them that I'm getting my own vehicle here to pick me up and if they would cover the cost of gas for me. The answer I got was, no, you're on your own. So we had an elder come here with his escort in December. Stayed here in Norman Wells for 6 days because he couldn't get from Norman Wells to Fort Good Hope back home. They ran out of money staying here. And then now I see you're telling Angela over here that it takes 3 weeks to go out to a program because of medical travel. When a person wants to go out to a program, in the first week, you guys should jump on that, get on it, rather than wait for medical travel. After 3 weeks, yeah, you're going to give up, you're going to walk away. What's the use of going for help? What's the use of getting this? I went out last year, again, I'll use myself. I was diagnosed with diabetes. Anyways, I went to the health center. My health card expired. I had to apply for a new health card within that process. We sent out all the information, all the papers, all the ID, whatever they needed. They came back, they said, send one piece of identification or one piece of a document that has a government logo on it, a bill or anything. So I send them a bill. It's not good enough, send something else. So I send them something else. Not good enough, send something else. Today I still don't have a valid health card. That's about 2 years now. So that leaves me stuck in a place where if I wanted to go out for dental or anything, I wouldn't be able to go out for dental because my health card is expired. Like, I don't know if Norman Wells is situated as a regional health place for the Satu region. If it is, then all these programs should be brought back here in Norman Wells in the Satu region. Not Yellowknife, not Inuvik. This is the Satu region. We're not the Delta or Decho or the Clicho. We're Satu. Bring it back here. Thank you.
So Chief Pirro, I'll speak to the medical travel because it has been an absolute ongoing problem that we've recognized. So Peter Long is the Territorial Director of Medical Travel. We have obviously identified with the change in flights, specifically, I mean, Canadian North, trying to get people, to Yellowknife or onward to Edmonton. And also with Northright flights being decreased while the winter road is open. But even previous to this, we've been running into daily medical travel issues. And I feel for everybody, and we know, and we've had conversations, and we have spoken to Yellowknife just in terms of how can we fix this. So we are supposed to get our own medical travel person located here in Norman Wells. How that position, because I knew at the time the lady who did it for us, and she did a phenomenal job, and she knew the people. Like, it worked very, very well. So my hope is that we're able to hire somebody locally and have somebody working in our regional office. So that's where that is right now. And I'll get an update from Mimi when she's back, just to see, where are we at, like, in actually hiring, because I think we had somebody, but that ended up falling through. For the health cards being expired, absolutely. I feel your challenges. Just when I was living here full-time, trying to get a health card, I thought I'm gonna have to give up my firstborn to be able to get a health care card. But there is a number in Inuvik that you can phone, and I'll get that for you so that you can give them a call and get that sorted for you, because that's a burden for sure, trying to get that sorted out. But yeah, so like medical travel, we are definitely working on it. For what we've tried to put in place, because we have spoken to the territorial director about this, now that Norman Wells has people coming through and staying, and knowing that we don't have restaurants necessarily open, especially if you're staying down at the Heritage, and if you're walking, and if you're an elder, it's impossible to get around unless you know somebody in the community. But we can't base people traveling on whether or not you know people, right? That's not fair. So the process that we've tried to put in place is that the clerks let myself and Mandy know that if they're coming, that they have clients coming through, and then we'll be by to pick them up at the airport and take them to the hotel. And I know Mandy's run to the store for people so that they can pick up some groceries, and definitely not ideal, but that's kind of what we put in place at the moment to try to mitigate people being left at the airport. And what I can suggest, if somebody does show up and has no drive because we weren't made aware, is to call the nurse on call, and we'll get somebody over there to pick them up. But very frustrating for everybody, especially people that are traveling.
Thank you, and I want to thank and thankful the mayor of Norman Wells for setting this up for the first time in centuries, I guess. Put it that way. I'd like to thank him, and this is overwhelming. The services from health is just one area, but this is overwhelming. In this day and age, we're still living worse than the 60s, holy. Fortunately for people like us who are educated, we can ask for the services and ask for things that we need to get going, but it's 99% or 90% of the communities who do not have the education, especially the elders, not knowing the difference, but they expect to be taken care of now because that's to be expected. They offer this. I don't know where to start, but I want to know how many programs for the SATU that is being run in Yellowknife, and how many programs are SATU's programs that are in Inuvik now. Some of these are crises in our communities with diabetic too, and other serious diseases, and that's another thing I want to find out. And our main resource peoples, staff, some are living in Yellowknife. Oh God, I don't know. But all these things have to change for the peoples in the South too. Poverty is one of the main issues. That's the point of where people's coming in from the community. That's what causes all this violence. We talk about mental health. Wow. My grandson lives in, was sent to BC to be taken care of in a home because her mother is single. She doesn't have that income. This is another issue. If a mother, single mother, doesn't want to put their, whoever is child's fathers on maintenance, they have the right to do that. But they get punished for that. They don't get income. They don't get income support. People, what's going on? This is an ongoing problem in the community. For people that young people may not know the education, that these are areas. Now my grandson is in BC in a home. In what home are these foreign peoples that allow them to get into drugs when they're supposed to be taken care of down there? Her mother should have been, but she couldn't do it. So he's down there now under the influence of drugs. No support of any kind. Nothing. So she has to send him money to eat. Wow, this is incredible. It's just incredible what we're putting up with. I have a lot here, but I just don't know how to stop it and how to put it, because violence is poverty. That is the point of where the peoples of Sahtu is. You know, a single family or any young person, the cost of fuel is just incredible. Good thing I'm an experience in there because I have to pay my own. I'm not subsidized because of the job I was in. It's incredible. With the cost coming up at $3,000 to fill a tank. And how do these young people do it? Oh, God. And the rent is another issue. Holy. Depression sets in, and of course they have to turn to alcohol. Now drugs just to ease their mind that when they get up, they wake up to the same problem here, people. Oh my God. These are all, you know, you all have these shops and you all have to do this. No, you couldn't. It's incredible because this is human care. One client alone must be humongous. Just the reports must be humongous. So it takes, well, of course it takes time. And the process is very slow too, just to get help. Just to get income support is another area people have problems with. So they give up, but they qualify. But because the questions they can because they don't know, or they can't answer the questions because they don't have that, whatever you want to call it, credibility to get an income support, they can't get it. You're right in saying that flight restricts the people from the Sahtu to travel. We have to change that. We have from the communities, we have to be allowed to have services from different flights just to help the people in our communities. That alone is not a very good choice that has been made for us through our own body of leaders, because I don't know if these programs are given to the leaders of the Sahtu. We don't know, but we're here because we have these huge problems. We need to address it. And I'd like to thank Frank again for helping us to be here. It's incredible to support the family. Bless them. You couldn't, not with mental health and all these different programs that are not one. And I don't know if there's any communication with leaderships in Yellowknife or even our community leaderships that have their annual or monthly meetings everywhere in the country. How could they bring this up? How could they address our issues here? Holy. I'm a residential school client. no health resource people could never understand why we had these little aches. It took them many years to find out what all this was all about, what was it costing us. But it's even worse now because it's not a laughing matter, but it is. In a way, it is. You have all these social services that are in the community. We have one in the community, but he's foreign. He cannot communicate well. So the people will not go to them. They know. They know they wouldn't accept them talking about their huge problems they have every day. They couldn't go to him. And all the rest of the resource people that are flying in and flying out, some of them come in for one day, not realizing people need them in the community, so they fly in and they fly out in the evening. What is that going to do for the people in the communities? So I believe we have to work on a lot of these issues. My concern is the children that are caught in all these. They couldn't find a home, those young people or the people that want to go for help because they need families to look after them. And they're going to do it on a volunteer basis, no thanks. People that are doing volunteer services is not good. On a volunteer basis, when you live in poverty, no, thank you very much. Anyway, this is all. I might have some later on, but thank you very much. Merci.
Again, thank you, Frank, for organizing this event. I think it's really, really important. I think, and I hear Fort Gidop's concern, especially about the medical travel. We have the same concerns, but he already spoke to that, so I'm not going to speak on that. But I just want to say I'm thankful for all the people that work in the community, like especially for the nurses, the RCMP, and whoever. But one of the biggest problems we have for those people is accommodations or housing. And I think that's one of the concerns that we're trying to work on. But I just wanted to, before I start my short presentation, I want to talk. Yesterday on the news, Canada made it was on the headline news that Canada is failing the Indigenous people again with help. On the report card, they failed. They haven't improved one bit from when they stated they were going to fix all the water issues, the social issues. But they failed that report card big time. That was on the headline news yesterday. So I just wanted to share that with everybody here. And when they say that, it includes us in the North. But at the same time, we all have common issues. Common issues are addictions, social issues, and housing. Those are the three top issues that we face in the communities. And I think in terms of addictions, at one time it used to be just alcohol, and then soft drugs. Now it's hard drugs. And because you hear that in the news daily, Yukon had one of the largest busts in the history of the North. And Yellowknife, you see the homicides that's happening last week. It's not getting better, and these are trickling down to our communities because we have to get services into our communities every day. The RCMP can't stop it. They need help. They need our help as leaders. And I think, these hard drugs, they're not just regular, marijuana. Like that's a norm now. You can buy it at the liquor store or wherever. But these hard drugs, they're laced with fentanyl, opiates, and these are dangerous drugs. Just yesterday they put out a warning that people are taking, they're laced with these things and they're killing people. There's one death again. I'll share a story with you. I have a stepsister last year she was sent to Calgary because there's no treatment center. She's only like 29 years old. She went to treatment and she walked out of treatment and she bought one hard drug and then they found her dead. You know, and all of us, we know of somebody in our families, our friends, going to go through that if we don't do something about it. And I think it's a very serious situation for us in the Saukta region because hard drugs are coming in. And it's just not about that too. There's young people are getting addicted and they're starting to steal. They're still filling up the jails. And elder abuse, it's rampant. I see it, I hear it. I'm a leader of one of my community, part of the leadership. And I think, you know, we need more exposure for prevention. It's not just for addiction, diabetes, cancer. We need prevention. And how do we do that? It has to start at home, it has to start at the school, it has to start resources, people like yourselves. And part of the problem too is that the application process to help people, it's crazy. Like 3 weeks? No. My uncle Morris there, he passed away because he was diagnosed with cancer. It was too late, but it shouldn't happen. And the lady in Wati, young girl, not even 30 years old, sent home and she passed away a week later. Those shouldn't happen. You know, I have all the respect for the nurses, all the respect for the RCMP, but those things shouldn't happen. And so we need to, like, I can't speak for the other communities, but in Delaney, we're working hard. Phoebe's going to speak to some of the things that we're doing, but I think we need to keep the hard drugs out. We need to educate our young people about the effects of what alcohol and drugs can do to you. It tears people apart. They do things normally they wouldn't do when they're sober. I think I hear Lucy's concerns too. You know, that's true. And I think, and one of the things, like I was the chief before too. We don't use that title anymore, chief. We call ourselves a Watide now. But I think palliative care, we need 3 beds in each community because when an elder's ready to pass, he doesn't want to pass away in Edmonton or Yellowknife. He wants to be brought back home and die peacefully at home among his family and friends. It doesn't happen. They're always passing away. We were promised, when I was chief, that we were going to get 3 beds, palliative care, but it didn't happen. So I'm asking again, like maybe, not only for Delaney, for Good Hope too, maybe Toledo. We need those beds. And I think, because Northern Walls has a home here for the elderly, so they're okay, but the other communities, we need them. And and housing. The root of a lot of the problems is housing. And sure, you can get a house, but if you don't have a job, then poverty sets in. But that's all I'm going to say for now, and I'll ask more questions later. But I commend you guys for doing what you can, but I think we need to do more. Prevention, like I said. And I think our health center in Delaney is good. The nurses are good. It's just, they need help, that's all. Maybe more. That we have technology now, and we can do things through technology now. You don't have to fly out for everything now. But medical travel is also a big concern. Since the changed the route for getting north to Norman Walls. Everybody's going to north right now, so it's just, there's no room to travel now. So that's all I have to say for now, but it's more or less a comment. I don't need answers now, but once Phoebe gonna just follow with some of the stuff that we're doing from the DGG's point of view, like red tape, in terms of red tape, we're trying to get away from that. We just show a couple of, right now, you do fill out forms and, oh man, and you get frustrated. You walk away, you don't have to come back. Like for Delaney, we do on-the-land programs. Instead of going out to treatment, we buy them gas, we buy them skidoos, sleds, all the stuff you need for on-the-land. For us, that's dealing with addictions. So we set a budget for thousands of dollars. So a person could buy a machine for $25,000, we give them half of the money back for sleds. And then we charge it to on-the-land healing. And it works.
Yeah.
You see these young people out there on the land. And one of the biggest ones is gas. Lucy says, cost of living in the north, cost of doing business in the north, it's crazy. So a highway would be something that would help us too, I guess. That's it.
Good morning. My name is Phoebe Kenny, and I'm the Director of Housing and Infrastructure for our Dillon-Agotney government. I've been asked yesterday at the last minute by my Chief Executive Officer to come here on her behalf. So, we listened to your presentation and you make things sound so easy. Oh, we do this and we do that, and we do child and family services, we do foster care, we do adoptions, we do treatment. And in my position, I don't only deal with housing and infrastructure in Delaney. I support people with public housing applications. I support people with navigating through the wellness system to get to treatment centers. I support people applying for EI. There's a one Windows government person in Delaney that should be doing that, but I don't know why they don't go to GWT, and I guess they just don't like all the red tape and they come to me. So I don't just do housing and infrastructure, I also help with some social issues and things like that. Delaney is in a unique situation from all the rest of the communities in WT, in the Satu region. We're a self-government group. We have the ability to do a lot of things without getting permission from the GWT or Canada, Dillon-Agotney government is on the same level as GWT in Canada, which makes it really, I think it makes it a little bit easier for us to do stuff, so because we don't have to get permission from anybody to do what we want to do, And to me, yes, it makes it sound so easy, but when I navigate these clients through the systems, the GWT has so much red tape, and it's difficult, and some of these clients just give up, Like you say that they have expired healthcare cards, or they don't have ID. Health and Social Services is a GWT department or body. They should be helping these clients get through that. It costs money to get new IDs, So, and these people probably can't even afford it. If they can't afford their groceries, they can't afford their power bill. IDs is one of those things. So, and like housing or treatment. Let's talk about treatment. You talk about treatment, you help the people go out for treatment and stuff, and then after they're in treatment, you just leave them alone. Does Health and Social Services or the programs ever think about their needs when they're out there? They need socks, they need toothbrushes, do you fund them for those, or you just leave them on their own? You talk about single parents that want to go out for treatment, and they need childcare, and they need all this. Help them navigate through the program, So we don't, so like within the DGG, we have like a lot of reaching home funding, you know. It's Canada's housing strategy. We assist people on the verge of, who are homeless or on the verge of becoming homeless. You know, we assist in paying off arrears. We assist in, actually, I think we're doing GWT's job in paying damage deposit, first month's rent. You know, we give them startup money for groceries and supplies. We buy them furniture, you know. So even, and we support our clients who are going out for treatment. They bring me their acceptance letter into the program. Once they get to the program, if a vent or somebody sends me a letter, this person's checked in, we fund them. And that money should be for their socks and their toothpastes and their shampoos and stuff. That's why I say Delaunay is in a unique situation, and this money is Canada funded through their homeless strategy. So I urge like the Sato region to look into that. If you need more information, come and see me, you know. And even through COVID-19, they gave us money. And because people couldn't work, they couldn't go out, you know, getting jobs and stuff, we funded a lot of our people through that money. So another thing, we talk about child and youth counselors in the community, and you're trying to get some of those into the school. I urge you to do that as quickly as possible. Although our government has a lot of on-the-land programs for youth, not only youth, but for men and for women, and, you know, for learning traditional skills and things like that. Our government hired an ex-NHL player, you know, to run our hockey program in Delaunay. They're actually gonna come here this weekend. So if you're gonna watch hockey this weekend in Norman Wells, you'll see the Delaunay kids play, and you'll see the coach there. His name is Sandy McCarthy, you know. So we also support, like, for the youth, a really good boxing center, you know. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in trying to get a place for them. We bought all their equipment, and now we have a boxing center, and that is run by one of our local community members. So we also speak about housing. You know, like DGG is in the talks with GWT, EC&E, Health and Social Services at the higher level, because there's always issues with housing with people coming into our community. You know, we had a couple of teachers that were there that couldn't find housing in Delaunay, and they were gonna leave. And who does it affect? Our kids, you know? So because we're a self-government group, Canada announces all this housing money, and because we're self-government, Delaunay gets a portion of that. And after, like, if anybody's been on this winter road, we're getting some more modular homes down our winter road through this money. But, you know, like, I'm a past housing worker. I've been working in the local housing organization for many, many years. I don't want to say how many, just age myself. Yeah, but all those issues are tied around health and social services and EC&E and income support. You know, like, it's crazy how much people in my community come and need help. So especially with housing applications, issues with income support funding, you know. So like, I know our chief from Good Hope told a story about his medical travel, and I just want to end with this, you know. We had a community member go out to Yellowknife for a day surgery, and that person needed an escort. Medical travel refused them an escort. So what they did in Yellowknife, she stayed at Larga, or whatever that whole medical center is there. So when she was done, they sent a person down in the Larga van to go pick her up. And guess who picked her up? One of the cooks in the kitchen. And they said he was here, and he took her bag, put it in the truck, and left her there. She was staggering into the van. So when she got to the Larga Center, or whatever you call it in Yellowknife, she had to bring her own stuff up a flight of stairs onto the second floor. So I just wanted to tell you that story to see how the medical travel in the SOT2 or in the NWT is. You could hear on the radio, you could read it on Facebook of all the issues that we're having. So I recommend that we try to fix it, you know, let's fix it to get our people to start healing. Let's be proactive instead of reactive. Let's deal with the situations before it happens. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Doug from Toledo, Mayor of the Hamlet of Toledo. Yeah, we have a number of issues you would like to speak of. The first one is medical travel. We have the same issues as the other communities have. Also, the other issue we have is when people go out for treatment, there's no aftercare, nothing in the community. And first of all, we don't have a wellness worker. We don't have a social worker in Toledo. We used to. I don't know why it's not there. Maybe shortage of housing, I'm not sure. But those two people are no longer in the community, and we do need them. They're not there. And the other issue we're dealing with too is also the drugs. We know the drugs that's coming in. I don't know the other communities that they have talked with the airlines. Maybe they can help each community. But the people are bringing in off the airlines, and they should be checked, or luggage should be checked. Something should be checked before they get on the plane, before they get into the community. Because this drugs is getting worse. It is getting worse. And, it's everywhere. I hear from other leaders from other communities. You know, and drug and alcohol is going to be an issue. It will always be an issue. It's just how you deal with it. You need to educate your community. You need to educate your people how you deal with it. You know, and there's a lot of people that are sober today. You know, people can go see and talk with them. Ask. They can tell you their experience of what they've been through. You know, medical travel. The other issue was escorts. Medical travel is not allowing escorts to go with the people that are on medical. That's another one. The other one is people are getting bumped off when they're going to get medical attention. And when that happens, they have to make the reappointment over again. And how long are you going to wait? 3 weeks to a month to do your reappointment again. And if it's a serious case, which may happen, what's going to happen with the individual person that's sick? You have to take that into consideration here. It's very serious. So what's going on? What's happening in the region here? It's not only happening in Toledo. It's happening in probably all the other communities. You know, and just in the past, we had an issue with our fuel shortage for planes to fly out to bring our people to Yellowknife for medical. And when the Northway Air could not take as many passengers as they could because of the fuel shortage. And some of our own people had to be bumped to get on the plane to go for medical. And that was very serious. I know we're going to be talking about MTS. That's on the agenda. And I was on a Zoom call when that happened. That should never happen. GWT needs to step up and do what they're supposed to do. You know, we had in Toledo, the wildfire is another one. We had to do things on our own. We couldn't wait for GWT to say yes. Just to call a state of emergency. He said you can't do a pre-state of emergency, you have to do a full state of emergency I know some people from my community did not want to leave. We had to stay there and maintain the community to make sure everything was good, and make sure everybody's out of the community. They would not give us a full authority to do an evacuation without a full state of emergency. So what we did in the community members, an organization together, we got together ourselves and we flew our people over to Delhi. And with the help of Delhi, within the government, they assisted us. And we thank them very much for what they've done for our people in Toledo. They were part of it. See, the region here, we stick together, we work together. This is how we got through this wildfire in Toledo. You know, and there's no way we're going to send our people out on the river if it's bad with the boat to get away from the fire. But that don't mean to going anywhere. If there's a smoke in the air and we can't fly, we're stuck in the community. What are we going to do? We know climate change is here, global warming is here. We know that. We see a lot of changes in our community. Elders have been predicting this for a number of years of what's going on here. You know, we need to push this road that we've always been talking about. And I still talk about it. The government said not till 2037, I believe, 2037 or something like that. But we need to push it earlier than that. Because a lot of communities are vulnerable on the river, on the river route. You know, there's other things on the agenda that's going to be coming up, but medical travel, and they have to care that people go out for treatment. That's another one. It's been brought up here. It's been brought up here the same way too, because people have to wait to go out. And when they come back, there's no aftercare, nothing in place with them. Of course they're going to fall off. What's going to happen? You know, the issue, the problem is in our community. We know it's there, and how we deal with it. We don't have the resources. We don't have the people in place to assist them. We may have a medical nurse in the community. We have an RCMP. They can do only so much. Like Leonard said over here, the people need to step up and give them a hand, help them. I think that needs to happen. The other one too is the education system. That's another one. I know our students are falling through the cracks. Some are not at the grade level that they think they are when they're actually at grade 12, and they're not. When they finish grade 12, and they want to go to university or college, they're not at that grade level. They have to go back and get the education they need to get to qualify to go to a college or university. That's a huge issue. That's where we're leaving our young people, stranded, nowhere to go, nothing to do. We need to concentrate on our young people a lot more. They will be the next one generation that could be speaking up for their communities, for their people. You know? And I'll leave it at that. Maybe the other councillors here maybe want to ask questions. And those are the questions that I want to bring up today. Thank you.
Hi, Diane Doctor. I sit on the Hamlet Council. My question to, I think it's, I didn't catch your name. The first one, yes. You talked about the Jordan Principal Program there. I just want to see who qualifies. Is it, can you be more specific on who can qualify? Is it open to, let's say, the whole SUD2 members?
Yeah, so Jordan's Principal is a federally funded program, but we do support a lot of clients in helping with their applications. I know DDG's hired Patricia that helps with their applications, and then my staff write the support letters. So it's for any it's basically for children. So any family that has a child, so the supports are through that. So Indigenous, Inuvialuit, Métis.
Oh, so, I just wanted to get that clear message, because my daughters, one of my daughters applied for the program, but she couldn't qualify because she wasn't treaty.
Sorry, yeah, so from that federal position, they do require them to be like registered, right? So they need to provide proof of being Indigenous. What we have done with people, with clients, is we've helped advocated. Sometimes it's letters from like a Métis local or nation if they don't have a number. So we can help them kind of access that, a letter or some sort, but the children have to be registered. So like, I'm Métis from Saskatchewan.
Registered in what?
So registered with like an Indigenous organization, whether it's a Métis band or the Toledo band or the DDG or For Good Hope. Myself, like, I'm Métis from Saskatchewan. I'm not registered like within a band, but my children are adopted and they are. So like, I can access supports for my children.
So you would have to be registered in a band.
The children, yes, yeah.
The band, it doesn't matter. It's just a band, okay.
The band, yeah. You don't have to have like a treaty card, but sometimes we might get a letter from DDG saying that the children are beneficiaries or they're eligible to be beneficiaries, and then we can help with those applications. Now, Jordan's Principle is a delay in itself, as most people know. We are like programs like DDG, I'm going to use you as an example. Having Patricia in there now is helping, I think, to get those applications expedited. I have social workers that do sit for maybe an hour, 2 hours on hold for emergency situations with clients, because clients and community members, if it's an emergency, can call in for more of a immediate need, as opposed to like, sometimes applications are for groceries or housing arrears, but like if a family's to be evicted tomorrow, then we're gonna get on the phone. Jordan's Principal is gonna hear that request today.
Yeah.
I've had, medical travel needs, again, Jordan's Principal is hearing that request today, right? But they have their own level. We're just supporting and navigating people through that process.
I just don't like the discriminating, especially, we all know where we come from, right? So, like, for myself, I'm a Métis member.
Yeah.
And just for her to be crying to me, saying, Mom, I can't get help from this program. It got me so angry that I went to Yellowknife and I said, give me your papers so I can get stamped like a cow. I was frustrated to see my kids not getting the same help as their cousins who are in the band. So, stuff like that, it's frustrating. I'm frustrated. And second of all, your education programs, like for in school, those things should be promoted. Because, today we're talking about all these dangerous, deadly drugs that are available just about anywhere now. Those things should be taught into the school about learning about these drugs, right? So those should be integrated into the school programs. I know there's a lot of programs that can't be integrated. It's a school, federal stuff that it's complicated and you can't, like even cultural programs. They're slowly integrating into the community's school. So all those things should be promoted into and also local. When I say local, there should be more interagency programs that should be. They should be exercising more. Your nurses, your local leaders, your RCMP, all those committees should be set up where, just to get the support system. If you wanted some sort of support from your Minister of Health or Minister of Transportation, at least you got those leaders there that can take the initiative and get that support system out. And the other thing was you know, I know this is a Satu Summit. I mean, it'd be a nice chance. You guys are just directors and managers. You're not the Minister of Health and Minister, you know, so that's the thing. We need to get those people up here and bring our concerns, what we're talking about, the lack of support from emergency medical and the gas. I mean, we're talking about low fuelage of last fall with Northright, you know? So, I mean, we don't, what's the reason? Maybe climate change. The barge system couldn't come through in late July because the water was so low. So all those things, you know, we need to support the highway, you know, for stuff like this. Maybe support another airline or something. Get, you know, let's get all this stuff back. But we need to get a support letter to these guys, to the Ministry of Health and Transportation, and the other thing is, what's the lack of the medical travel? Like, do you know what's going on? Why is there a lack of service? Is there's, yeah.
So like I mentioned earlier, medical travel and the volume, you know, for people to go out, because I think somebody referred to doing some virtual, like we do have telehealth, but there's still a lot of appointments people want, you know, in person. Now, that may mean you fly to Yellowknife, you sit in front of a doctor, they don't even touch you. It's 5 minutes, you turn around and then you have to come back, right? So we are trying to promote and have more virtual appointments when it's probably better for the client than actually traveling out of the community. But it's been the flights and the volume of people that have needed to go out. And I just want to speak just a little bit about escorts. So I hear from the nurse in charge in each community. I'm on the phone with them daily, and we talk about, you know, something that maybe just come up, and Colleen, can you help? And so I will call medical travel myself and say, so this is why we were requesting this client to have an escort. They do have their own policies, and unfortunately I can't really sway them one way or the other because they're following, you know, their rules. And so I sit on the side of with the NICs who are trying to advocate for the patient, saying we need an escort. Like, why is this denied? So I do try to help, and I do, you know, I've emailed the director, so it's unfortunate at the end of the day as health and social sort, like we don't get that say. So that's really challenging for us because we do want to advocate for the patients. But the medical travel piece on its own is a part of the flights, the availability. We've asked if we can bump people to get our clients on. We're not allowed. Like we've tried different avenues for getting like us as a priority, but we're not. So we kind of struggle daily with it.
Thank you, and thank you, Frank, for putting on this very important summit for the SAT2. I mean, it's about time that we start really acknowledging all the issues that are on the table now. So thank you.
Okay, Machi and Jimmy Mendo from Toledo. And first of all, I'd like to thank Frank and Antonio for putting up this summit, and the people from the Culture Coach. They spoke very good, very what we're all going through, and people from Delhi. And I guess first I'm gonna have 3 questions. I guess to the mental health center. I know we don't have none back in Toledo, and it's very important because I remember, now we're fighting with the drugs and alcohol. And excuse my voice, I got a little touch. And one of the biggest issues, like Angela spoke on, why it's taken so long to, when people are struggling and they're reaching for help. And I'll give you one little story. About 10 years ago, coming up 10 years in July, my daughter is I raised her, so she jumped in the Mackenzie River. She went out for a help that time. Then she came to our house and said, Dad and Mom, I want to help, but they said, come back after. And she was that time cocaine was around. And then that afternoon she jumped in the river. We're really fortunate that we had people down the shore to pick her up and kind of save her. And so what we did was we're blessed that we had some money, and we helped her to get into treatment. The first treatment, we had no help from GNWG, mental and health, nobody. We asked, they said, wait, we'll come back, which was total disaster for her. And so we brought her down to Red Deer. She came back again, nothing to do, and she got back again. So we had to, then we went back to the same place. Social workers, nobody said, come back again. So we took her to Enrich down in BC, Niama, right? That's a very, stayed for 5 months, and she's been clean for 10 years. But again, if we didn't have the money, maybe she'd be gone. But then she had turned weight 2 times, and that's my first question. So how can you guys give us a hand, to move it faster, not wait, and hope now we're into it, then Leonard talk about that, now they're lacing these cocaine with a harder drug. So that's one, and another one's to the health center. And we all have lots of respect for the expertise for the nurse they bring in, and then, well, why every time people go to the health center, they always give them Tylenol. You look at what happened, and I can tell you a very shock story, 2005, but I'm not going to say it, but what happened to my mom. And so, for example, myself, I just give you, I went to the health center, this was in October, and I was on my way to Toronto. I was very fortunate. I went to Toronto, and I went to the nurse. There's something bothering my stomach. For 1 year, I've been going to the health center, X-ray. Here, Tylenol, maybe he's got upset stomach. You're okay. Well, when I was coming back to Toronto, I had my stomach, and I got to Yellowknife. My pancreas was infected. My bile was all infected, my stomach. My liver was infected. And I was very lucky. I went through the operation, but I couldn't get the operation because, and the doctor told me, why it took you so long? And I said, well, they keep giving me Tylenol. So I think something has to be done, I know the nurse they're trained expertise, but we know our body. And I told him what this called. I think I have gallstone. They said, no, you don't have gallstone. So 1 year I suffered. And on the medical travel, that's a true question of medical travel. What the chief from for Bill said, it was very true. If you don't have, you get bumped. I was in Young Lake, I was going to have our meeting and in Tulida. So I told her, I brought this up into her, I said, I just came back from Young Lake, I was 2 days late from getting on my flight, medical travel. They brought a woman from Delany to Yellowknife, and she got off the plane, and I was at the airport, and I said, what happened? And she's sitting with her suitcase there, and I said, aren't you going on a medical trip? He said, no, they brought me to Yellowknife. I had no medical appointment. And I said, what? So she was stuck there. And I said, well, so I phoned Largo House, down in Yellowknife, Mattel Able House, for her. And they said, no, she can't come here because she doesn't have an appointment. So she was upset, and she had, a little bit of money, but they won't bring it on. So what I did, I said, okay, well, phone medical travel back. So she did, and they said they put her on a plane back, but there was no room. So I had to jump off. I gave my seat to go back. So these things happen, like nobody knows. And those elders or the people, mother, they don't, speak up for themselves. So we're their voice for them. So I thought I'd bring those 3 questions, if you guys can answer all 3 and be good, And again, I'd like to thank Frank. So this is time we all have to work together. We're not criticizing anybody, but how can we do together? And a very good example, like Delany, like our mayor said, we're very fortunate that they came when we had an evacuation in Tulida. And Delany came and helped our people from Tulida. So that's what we talk about. We work together. We're all one people, and we're all here. And I'm sure you guys are sitting up here. You guys want to help us, but we have to express our concern. Without our concern, you guys would never know what we're going through. We're all people. We have to respect that. Masicho.
Thank you all. Excellent presentations. I'd like to just address Diane's comment, though. For this first meeting of these little governments, we did bring in the frontline workers who are on the edge of being shot half the time. They're the ones that do all the abuse. But if the group agree that we should have another summit at some time to discuss similar issues, I've talked to our MLA, Danny McNeely, and he said if we have another meeting, he will certainly make every effort to bring in relevant ministers for some of the issues that we want to do. The people here can pass our message along, but if we want to talk directly to some of these ministers, let's set up maybe in the fall another session, get together, and by then we'll have a lot more questions. Our cabinet ministers will be better trained. They'll already have had this about a year under their belt, and maybe they'll be able to answer our questions. But if you agree, we can have another summit similar to this one, and the next one will be for ministers that you, the delegates, wanted to question. I'll turn it over to elections, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, my apologies.
Thanks again for the invitation. Always a pleasure, Mayor Pope. And I just want to commend all the health workers that in the healthcare field, especially you 3 on the hot seat. So I attended a virtual meeting. It was, I think it was a regional health meeting with the regional health board for the Saskatchewan region. It was a virtual meeting. And at that time, a really great idea was brought up, and it kind of fell through the cracks. I hadn't heard anything about it since last year. So I want to bring it back up on the municipal level. The idea was, you were mentioning you guys offer programs, treatment programs, domestic violence programs. One of them that came up was starting a regional drug task force, a committee, or individuals from around the Satu. So they can go and travel to different communities in the Satu, give support for addictions, try to tackle the root problem of the drugs coming into the community, which are the drug dealers bringing them in. Also to, if we had a team of people to provide support on how to get treatment, to help with the process, provide the aftercare support, because that's not there. I did like Leonard when he mentioned that Delaney has the On the Land Healing Program. I think that's would be the great aftercare support program. Also, educate the youth and the public on the effects and dangers of the drugs that are coming into the community. Go into the schools, go talk to the kids when they're young, send pictures pictures of the drugs that are out there. How is it administered? How do you take it? Like you mentioned benzos. I don't even know what that is. So that came up at a meeting last year, and I've never heard anything of it since then. But I thought that'd be a really great initiative to start for the Satu region, a regional drug force task committee or society. Okay, thank you.
Hi, everybody. Because everybody touched on quite a few of the questions I had. We do have issues, of course, medical travel, the policies put in place for who can be an escort at what time for what patient. I think there needs to be some advocacy for cabinet to change those policies. They're very black and white and don't take into account elders with language barriers, as well as especially children or even elders that have difficulty with movement. Having an escort is always important. Going back, Leonard said something about prevention, and it hits home because I think prevention is, a key to getting early testing for cancer screening. And I know that through being on the Regional Wellness Council for the Satu, there is some earlier screening stuff coming in, programs that they're starting. So I think that's really good. But I have a question, Tina, regarding how do we get people that are addicted to crack cocaine to start opening up and having conversations? What is the biggest barrier? How do we create the safe space for them to start admitting that they have a problem, that they need the help? Because you say that that's the hardest part, is getting them to admit that they're having this issue. How can we as community members, community leaders, start getting those addicts to admit that they need some help, or at least give them a safe spot for them to actually come to start that process? I know it's a long road, but.
Thank you so much, Alexis. It's really difficult though, because when we talk about addiction, we always say it's a personal journey. But in what we are experiencing like right now, I think that what works is that we take addiction as a community journey. This is not about an individual suffering only. It actually affects their family. It also affects their work, and it also affects our community. And it's really hard for our clients to actually come in for counseling if in a way they do not have the support of, first and foremost, their family, their workplace, and sometimes the community members as well. 50% of the single moms that would come in and would want to go for treatment, the challenges that they would always, number one that they would tell me is childcare. No one in their family is actually sober enough to actually take care of their children. And if that is the case, they'd rather try to manage their addictions by themselves. So sometimes if that happens, we talk to them about harm reduction, just reducing the amount of, say, alcohol that they're taking, or reducing the amount of substance that they're taking. Like, that's the best that we can do with the situation that we have. But it's really important for us to understand that it's really difficult for them to come in to actually access the service. So I would give this back to the community. I think that if in a way you know someone, a family member, a community member that would need help, accompany them. As long as they're willing and they give you consent to accompany them, to sit with you in there, then I think that's actually one of the best healing that I've seen so far. And I've seen a lot of our clients as well, when they come alone, they tend not to go by themselves. They're just like, no, this is not gonna work for me, I don't wanna go. But sometimes if they're accompanied by their common laws or their parents, or even at one point an employer accompanied them, you know, they actually, the rate of success into going into treatment is actually higher. So maybe that's what we would want to see, is that community members start accompanying, you know, our community members that would need help, because it's really difficult for them. Also, we've talked about escorts a while ago. I don't know if the community knows that we also provide escorts for those of our clients that are traveling for treatment. If they are not safe to travel by themselves, we do provide escorts. Now, the way that we look at escorts is different from the way that Colleen's program would look at escorts. For us, if we say that escort is needed, it's almost a guarantee that it is going to be approved. We have a different way into looking at our escorts when it comes to going into treatment. I hope that answers it.
Can I just like to quickly add that, you know, when we see clients come in, like from a nursing perspective, like somebody that may have overdosed that we've treated, and having those conversations with people, like, people do have choices, right, to make life decisions, and we definitely try to promote people to say, hey, like, we can get you in touch with a counselor, but until that person really wants to make that change, there's not a lot we can do. And I would love to go out and say, for the love of God, somebody help this person, but confidentiality, right? And of course, we have to be very mindful of people's personal decisions. I might think it's a bad decision, but they are able to make that. So just wanted to add that.
I'll maybe just make it one last question on healthcare for now. And it relates to permanent nurses living in our communities versus the, what they call agency nurses. Is there a mega difference in how these people are compensated? It seems to me that we bring in nurses for a month, 6-week terms, they get room and board and everything else, fly in, fly out, and yet our nurses who live here, dedicated community nurses who live here year-round, do not seem to be compensated as well. Could you just explain the difference in the two, please?
I sure can. So we don't have any travel nurses here. What we do have is casual nurses, but they all fall under our collective agreement, the union collective agreement, so they wouldn't get any more or anything more than like a full-time nurse that works here. I have tried to have nurses come and work here full-time, but of course it's challenging, as you can imagine. So, but we do have casual nurses that can pretty much determine a contract, like if they want to come for 2 weeks, they want to come for 3 weeks. Depending on my staffing needs, I may take a nurse for just 2 or 3 weeks because it will prevent a health center from closing. But as far as like the rest of the nurses, like job shares, we all fall under the same union collective agreement.
Can I say one thing? Sorry, before we close out. I think it's really important based on some of the stuff I was hearing, and I don't want the issue of language, and maybe it's a word that I use, kind of take away from the service that we provide. I know Lucy had mentioned like voluntary, families voluntarily taking, supports. When I use the word voluntary, I mean non-protection, right? So a family doesn't need to have protection concerns to get supports from our program. We call them voluntary supports or services because the family's coming to us saying, I need some help. So they're not waiting for protection concern to come up. So when I say we provide voluntary services, I don't mean we expect people to give their time voluntarily or their homes voluntarily. It's that the families are coming to us voluntarily saying, Crystal, Kofi, Leonard, whoever, I need some help. Can you help me? So I wanted to clarify that a little bit. And then as it links to Tina's program, or even for Colleen's program, if there's a mom and she needs to go to treatment, you're right, it's difficult. Tina may say, you know, do you have family that can help? And I don't want groceries to be a barrier, right? Like if there's a young mom, and I know there's lots that we work with, and treatment is their goal, I know that unless it's family treatment, their children can't go with them. But if they have an aunt or an uncle, because we don't want to put kids in foster homes with families they don't know. And if it's a family member involved and mom's asking for help, I also don't want it to call it a foster home where I need the criminal record checks and the medicals and all that. We can support. So if it's groceries, mom's going away for 6 weeks for treatment and she's like, I have an aunt who will care for my kids, but they live in Yellowknife. I will help get those kids to Yellowknife. Like I will help cover those flights. My program will. Or if grandma's in Toledo, but mom's in Fork and Hope, again, we'll get them there and then we'll help with groceries. So voluntary just means that the family's coming to us for support. So I wanted to clarify that a little bit and to know that there are supports that can be linked, but sometimes you're right, it's mom finding that person. And I don't have a lot of regular foster homes like I share because we want to support families. So if family can step up, I can definitely help. My program can definitely help. So I just wanted to clarify those terms just to make sure that people didn't leave here thinking that I was expecting everyone to voluntarily provide all this support on their own when I know the cost of living is extremely high and you know, everyone's already stretched as much as they can be. So hopefully that clarifies a little bit.
Thank you. Colleen, I suggest you and your team, if you stick around, have lunch with us in case anybody else has other questions they may want to talk to you on the floor here. But sincere thanks from us and all of us for being here, answering our questions. I hope taking a lot of notes on a lot of our concerns, and hopefully we'll be able to resolve some of them between all of us working closely together. So thank you very much. I think we'll take a 5-minute break here, and then when lunch is here, we'll take a longer break.
Hello, Frank. Frank, over here.
Sorry, Colin. Go ahead, Colin.
We have one of the guests that are sitting here that have some questions they want to ask. Is it okay?
Yep, certainly. That's what we're here for, is to ask questions.
Okay.
So if somebody wants to come up to the floor and get a microphone, you're welcome to speak. Yes.
All right, hold on.
Morning, everyone. My name is Joe. I'm from Fort Good Hope. I'm also one of those residential school students. I've worked all my life, so just so some of you that you guys don't know who I am, I'm giving you a little background. I just have some questions on the way things, you look around here, you just see politicians and workers, deputy ministers and managers and everything else, and it affects people, ordinary people like myself, that no longer are politicians or workers or things. But I also observe a lot that happens within our region. One of the most common things that I see is that everyone is working in isolation of each other. We have no major activity, no major economic benefits that we share. If there is a project that's just done to a specific group, I think one of the Kashtagotin principles is sharing. You share what you have. And that's how we always did that in our community. But I wanted to bring up the things that some of you just passed over. There's a lot of people like myself that are walking around and looking for help and trying to find somebody to talk to. There are times when you go there, but it's a public forum that you go, a health center. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry is waiting in the waiting room, and you're going to be sitting with the, whatever you call that guy way in the back that doesn't even speak English. So you have all these refugees in key positions that don't understand English and carrying out programs and that's completely different to our way of life. So I know back in late 70s and 80s, we had 97% of Fort Good Hope drinking. The community got together and worked their butts off and trying to deal with it. And you're asking your people to do something, but you want to take the drinking part out, but you have to replace it with something else. So we had bush programs going, we had the best recreation programs going, we had all our kids traveling, we had a good education system. And now we're back in the same place with a different problem. Drugs, meth, cocaine, crack, fentanyl. Some of you don't even know how to look, and people need to be educated to recognize that. We need to take an inventory of what assets we have in the Sahtu. I mean, we keep our young guys employed and working and have money in their pockets. They won't have time to run around. It was like back in the 70s, 80s when this building was new, the pipeline was going. Now this building is old and the floors like this and you're walking sideways. So we do things. You ask them to not drink and do drugs, but we need to give them education, recreation, and a good service program. You got to get good people that actually speak English and that are going to help you. And it's the same way with the health centers. Jesus, they're supposed to get blood tests here. It's 1 year, October, 1 year. 1 year and 4 months, and I still never get my blood test because the druggies and the alcohol, they take up most of the nurses' time. So they work 24 hours a day and they don't have paid time for regular patients. So the ordinary people are suffering. They don't keep up to their regular blood work or the other tests that their doctor wants. So I'm something like 4 years behind in all the tests, and how much is other people in the Sahtu are behind. We need to start talking about our liquor store. The liquor store here is the starting ground of all our social problems. You got no control. If you go to a liquor store in Alberta, Saskatchewan, BC, they're gonna, anytime you buy anything over 40 ounce, they're gonna ask you for a permit. Here, it's wide open. We have nurses and police. we're overworking them. I just talked to the members yesterday, and they haven't had a good night's sleep in about 4 or 5 days. And they're just hoping the winter road shuts down as soon as they could so they could get some rest. As we take inventory of the assets that the SOC2 had, we have a bridge that could help in lowering the food prices and gas prices. It's a large project. We should be able to all tackle it. Everybody should benefit from it. We have the second largest gas field in Cove Lake. We should develop that and make sure all the 5 communities have economic benefits, not just one little group. We should have our own refinery. We have a poor way of fighting fire nowadays. I think they're just taught to monitor fires. I know back in the 70s and 80s and 90s that we had the best firefighters from the SOC2 that went to the States, to Yukon, to Alberta, to the Slave Lake area. That's how good firefighters we have. We have lots of skilled people in the SOC2. It's just a matter of trying to get everybody together and not work in isolation of one another. I think I got it all, my notes all mixed up, trying to keep up to everybody speaking and that, but I know education is the most important part. And I know some of the other communities have a very good curriculum. The only way I can gauge it, because I have nothing to do with education, is I have one grandson that lives in Norman Wells and one in Good Hope. They're both in grade 4. They're both the same age. The one in Norman Wells is doing computers and additions, subtractions, geometry, all that. The one in Good Hope is coloring. So that's the difference between education, and that's something that really needs to be looked at seriously. And although we have all this problem with drugs and alcohol, I think if getting all the leaders together, I think we should be able to help each other, finding ways, trying to find ways to make work projects, or there's large projects available. It's just a matter of how we approach it. We did that with pipeline before. We should be able to do that, trying to help all our people, not just one sector. And I just wanted to say a quick thank you for Frank, and this is just a start of something that should be happening all the time. We should be able to get the ministers in and be able to talk seriously about the changes that we really need. You know, we fight fire the wrong, not the way that we used to. We have poor education system. We need to, health and social services, not what we thought it would be. People are sure taking advantage of that situation also. So I know that we have to have better guidelines and developing programs, and all the deputy ministers and project managers and everything are here, so maybe start throwing ideas around. But I like what I hear, and I also enjoy participating. Thank you. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you very much, Joe. Okay, any last minute people that want to say anything on healthcare? Because I don't want to shut the mic off if there's still people that want to talk.
Frank,
Okay, I have one of my own members, Pascal.
Frank, there's Doug over here. I got Gordon here that wants to say a few words. You're also from Tulia.
Okay, I'll give it to Pascal here, then go on and talk.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys. I'll try to be as brief as I can. I know we're a little bit behind schedule. I just wanted to ask a question. If it seems like what we need as far as the medical travel difficulties we're having, a possible solution would be to have less medical travel and have more medical professionals travel here. Is that something that has been discussed? Also, I was wondering about a cost analysis, if anything had been looked at like that, because it just from my perspective, it seems like it would be very, very expensive for all the medical travel. Would probably be more cost effective to have the professionals come here. Would have probably some good side effects. We could lower the cost of healthcare for the GNWT, which I think would be a good thing. We could provide a higher level of service to our residents, which would be terrific. And then another spin-off would be that we could create new jobs and new career opportunities to Satu residents. And then also, we could create new business opportunities for Satu businesses for transportation requirements, restaurants, hotels, everything. We could stimulate our economy. And I'm just wondering if you've had any discussions internally on that subject.
Yeah, Pascal, that's a great point. So Mimi has been working with the territory to bring in specialists to Norman Wells specifically, and have people from the communities fly in here to see the visiting specialties. So she is currently working on that because it has been obviously identified. I mean, I don't have numbers, but I can only imagine the cost of, sending people out and actually having the specialties available here during a visit would make a lot of sense. And she's working on that currently.
Excellent. Yeah, if you need us to lobby on your behalf for that, I know I would personally be glad to do so. My other question I had was in regards to an addictions treatment center, a regional center that's based in the Satu somewhere. I think would be an obvious solution. Perhaps such a center could provide an interim solution so we can get the people that want to get help. Get them in somewhere immediately without having a wait list. They could maybe, get treatment while they're waiting to move on to another treatment facility somewhere else. And I'm just wondering if you're aware of other jurisdictions, other regions that have such a setup, and if so, if it was successful, maybe another spin-off of that would be that such a center could provide kind of ongoing checkups and treatment to people that have received treatment, just to make sure that they're on the right path and receiving the help that they need.
Do you want to speak to like a regional? I know right now what we're looking at is having a place where people can detox before they go out. So as you know, health centers aren't 24 hours, so looking at having that ability to hold people for, a day or two or whatever that looks like, depending on being able to get them out. So that's something that's in the works as we speak. But for the regional treatment center, I know over the years there's been a lot of conversations about that. That is not my particular specialty, but I mean maybe Tina, you can speak to that just in terms of what kind of conversations have gone on about that.
Definitely. For the regional wellness treatment facilities, there is no region right now that's actually doing that. Back in, I would say 10 years ago, there was one in Yellowknife. It is a treatment facility that was actually closed. But I think that there is a talk about looking at hiring, like what Colleen said a while ago, more on the withdrawal. So it's more for people to actually, a place for people to detox. That's actually the plan right now. There's talks about that. There's also talks about having addiction doctors that will be actually provided within our region, because right now there is no specialist when it comes to the addiction. So there is, I think Mimi discussed that in one of our meetings, that they're looking into funding one of those positions so that we can actually have the capacity to detox our clients in here. Because right now, detox, when we talk about medical detox, it's only in Yellowknife that's actually can provide that. I think there's also a talk about some of our communities looking at the, it's actually discussed in SSI the last time when they were looking at a wellness center, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that's also what the community is looking after. But as for GNWT, I think what's in the works right now is the addictions doctor that will be provided, and then also capacity, additional mental health and addictions workers as well. But as per treatment, I am not so sure about that.
I can add one more thing. I'm sorry. Hi there. Can I just add one piece too? So from a child and families perspective, we used to have 2 territorial programs in the territory that were both in, one in Yellowknife and one was in Fort Smith. And that was, TTC was in Yellowknife for ages like 6 to 12, and then Trail Cross was in Fort Smith from like 12 to 18, run by programs from down south. So weren't going great over the last few years, so they kind of closed those down. I'm sure you heard about that. But this past year, in the last 6 months, we have taken the Fort Smith program, and there's been an On the Land program that was offered, an Indigenous on the Land program, and there have been approximately 24 youth from the territories who have attended. It's a 2 to 4 week program depending on the need, and we actually had a couple of Sawtooth youth attend that as well. So we're trying to, sending our youth and our children down south for treatment isn't great because they are being exposed to more drugs, different groups of people, and if we lose them on the streets of Delaney versus the streets of Vancouver, like there's a big difference. So we are trying to promote and develop more programming for youth within the territory. So the Fort Smith on the Land program has had some youth go through it. We're getting some feedback, and hopefully we'll be able to continue that in the new fiscal year. And information about that, families don't need to be working with us to access that. They can access that through applications on their own. Sometimes there's those barriers to coming to Child and Family Services for assistance. So we've kind of tried to eliminate those barriers, but they can come to any of the counselors, Tina's program, my program, the nurses, and those applications are available, and all the costs are covered for that as well. So I just wanted to plant that little seed that we are recognizing that we need more in-territory family and youth programs as well, and we're trying to build those back up. Doesn't speak to Sawtooth specific, but you know, to the north is a lot better than sending your kids to the streets of Regina or Vancouver or anything like that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just to give you a second here, Gordon Yakalai will be our last speaker of the morning. Lunch is here, so if you want to pick up lunch, and Peter Lyle will have a few words for us while maybe over the lunch period, because we have taken quite a bit of time up this morning. A couple of housekeeping issues. There's a draw. You'll see some ticket at the far end of the room here. If you want to put your name on that, there'll be a draw made for some gifts here at the end of the evening. And also that any of you who need gasoline for the trip home, be there at the gas station before 5 o'clock, and they will be looking after you. Sign the gas slip that she gives you, put your name and your community on the back, and we will look after that on your behalf. Thank you, Gordon.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I'm not going to take too much of your guys' time because it's lunchtime too, so. I'm very happy, thank you so much, Frank and others that invited me here. And one of the things that I say thank you because I see two of my elders way back there that come from Goodall. When you come to elder, you don't know. Next year we'll probably never see each other an hour, have an hour, but it's nice to shake hands to every one of you guys. That's how we grew up. That's how we've been taught by our elders. The elders are very important people.
you know, but what I know today, what I see today, this is what I learned from it. What we're going through today, I can see that. I went through that. I'm pretty sure these two elders went through that too. And thanks, Frank, so much, and I just want to think that could be nice if they had a translator for them. Because they asked me what they're talking about. Maybe on the next, you can provide that, that'd be great. Because as elders, you have to listen to the people that talk to. And we know what's going to happen. Even I can see that now it's happening. We all need each other. How do we get through this? This is how our elders got through hard time years ago. Is helping each other with words and with hands. And sharing is what we need to do. And today, where we are, is a different world now. Like today, I was asking Frank, I said, this month, you get the snow. We never had it in March, years ago. Now, this weather is February month. As the weather of February, it moved it, that's what Barrett Elder is talking about. That's what's happening to me. A lot of changes are happening. That a lot of people need to understand it. But who do you learn from? These elders don't tell you about that. Look at the water, the fire, where it's going. We talk about, you guys are talking about the highway. We'd like to see that happen, but the impact of it. How do we deal with our young people? I went through that myself. I'm an alcoholic today. I'm no better than anybody. I never drank for over 40 years of my life. How I done it is by my mother. It's asked me to go on the land and take a workshop there. I was in Control Territories for that. I was in Fort Simpson, I was in Toledo, taking AA workshop. Never, I caught no attention to me. Never had to think about it. Because there's so much distraction happening when you're in a community like this. Part of my mind is I gotta go to school, I gotta eat, all these things. But when you go on the land, you listen to somebody 100%, will say, then your thinking start to change now. I got a boy, I lost 2 boys. I had 1 girl, 1 boy. And he has a problem too. I talk about alcohol, I take 1 step away from it. 1 step backwards, and he gets angry with me. And I thought, how am I going to get to him? And I had to deal with myself. Because I went to residential school in Jason. But I don't want to raise that because I know what I went through. But I wanted to help myself. That's where my turnaround started to happen. And I came back and I said, my boy, I love you. And he came close to me. He started coming to me. I love you. That alcohol, my mom told me, the more you talk about it, the stronger it gets. That's what he told me. So I never talk about it. I just respect what they do. But I talk. This is what we need to do. We tried a lot of things in the past with the government. Detox centers, treatment, did it work? We have to look at different things on the land as a den of people, as others that want to come and learn from us. We have a lot of traditional culture, knowledge of how we do things that we need to teach you guys. That's what needs to happen. If not, this hard time, how are we going to get through it? Our Dana law, years ago, they had sharing. How do you share the terrible rules It's how they done was they built a freezer in a community, every community. I remember. And every year we've been hunting for that freezer to fill it up. For a time of May to run to summertime till fall time. So our caribou out there is still growing. But then the government came and said, okay, it costs too much money to run because of the power. We'll give everybody a freezer. Every household. Today, if you look at somebody's freezer, if you have no provider, who's going to fill the freezer? That's what took away our part of sharing, working together. That's what happened with us today. There's one thing I believe in yet. I'm still working towards that, and I hope we'll have to try it as a pilot project. You'll see the difference in people coming together now. We all need each other. I heard a lot of that story, why people are not coming together, because it's just pulling us apart. It's like everybody for himself. So I guess, like I said, I'm not going to take too much of your time, but what I went through, and I'd like to share that we need to share our stories with our young people. We went through the hardship. I was telling all of my young people, we didn't have water, we didn't have coffee, like what you have today these days, to survive. But they always told us, don't take more than what you need. That was a big reminder to all of us. But always share your food, help one another. So what we're doing today, is already set a long time ago by the elder. I took an elder with me. He said, one day you're going to walk across from the river right across to Windy Island without getting your feet wet. And that started when I was here. So I hope our stories can help you think what we're trying to tell you. We're worried about our young people. If we don't talk to them, we don't do anything for them, I don't know how their future is going to look. Our story is supposed to be carried on to the next generation so they can live with it. We're not going to be there forever with it. But I always look for the elders. I'm becoming one too. I know what I see start to happen. They have vision. They say they have vision. I was here trying to pick up, but all they have vision, what they see, how can it happen? Now it's starting to come to me too. So I can see what is going to start to happen. So I think one of the things that we all talk about a lot of stuff, drugs and alcohol. One of the best things, tools to use is education. Because fighting it is not going to stop. It's creating more problems fighting, but educating a young person. And let's try to teach our young kids out on the land. I think you'll be more successful. So with that, I don't want you guys to keep you too long from lunchtime too. So thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to speak to you guys. Must be.
Thank you, Gordon. Lunch is served.